It was supposed to be a 10-minute job. That's what I kept telling myself as I pulled my truck up the winding driveway, tires crunching over the crushed white stone. The sun was already low, that golden hour glow spreading across the hills, and I was exhausted. I'd been out since 7 a.m., and this was my last house of the day. Just a filter check and a quick chemical balance. In and out. Easy money. But nothing about this place screamed easy. The house was massive, modern, glass and concrete, all sharp lines and expensive landscaping. The kind of place that usually had a full-time staff, not some guy in cargo shorts and a sun-bleached polo with clear blue pool service stitched over the chest. Still, I parked, grabbed my kit, and headed toward the backyard. I didn't expect anyone to be home. Clients like this usually scheduled cleanings when they were out for the day. Pilates, brunch, meetings in Beverly Hills. But the second I stepped through the gate, I saw him. Lying on a lounger. Shirtless. Tanned. Muscled in that subtle personal trainer way that didn't scream gym rat, but whispered it just loud enough. He was scrolling on his phone, sunglasses pushed up into his hair, a bottle of sparkling water sweating beside him on the side table. He looked up as I approached, and for a second, I actually forgot why I was there. "You're the pool guy?" he asked, voice smooth, amused. "Yeah," I said, clearing my throat. "Tyler, from Clear Blue." He sat up, pushing the sunglasses back over his eyes. "Wasn't expecting anyone this late." "Wasn't planning to be this late," I said. "Long day." He nodded like he understood, but he didn't move to leave. Just watched as I set down my gear and started toward the equipment panel. "You ever cleaned this pool before?" he asked after a few moments. "First time," I said, glancing over my shoulder. "I usually don't do this route, just helping out today." He stood up, stretched, arms overhead, abs pulling tight, and walked toward the edge of the pool. "Well, Tyler from Clear Blue, what do you think of it?" I turned to face him fully, trying not to look like I was staring. "Honestly, it's gorgeous. Best view I've seen all week." He smirked, eyes hidden behind dark lenses. "The pool or me?" I froze, half laughing, half not sure how to react. "The pool," I said, finally. "Though, you're not bad either." He laughed, really laughed, and sat down on the edge, feet dipping into the water. "You're cute," he said. "You blush easy." I knelt beside the filter housing, trying to focus, but my face was definitely warm. Clients flirt sometimes. It happens. But this was different. He wasn't being gross, just casual, confident, like he was testing something. "I'm Cole, by the way," he said, swirling his feet in the water. "Cole Maddox." That name clicked a second later. Cole Maddox. Founder of some app I'd heard about. The kind of guy whose net worth had commas I couldn't even count. And here he was, sitting shirtless in front of me like it was no big deal. "Cool house," I said, because I didn't know what else to say. "You should see the inside," he said. "Actually, wanna?" I blinked. "Sorry?" "You've been working all day," he said, standing and grabbing his towel. "You want a drink? Water, beer, something stronger?" I still have to finish the readings." He nodded, slow, eyes tracking me. "Right. But after that, stick around. Unless you have somewhere to be." I didn't. My plan was to hit traffic on the 405 and microwave leftovers in my apartment while half watching YouTube. So when I said sure, it wasn't because I had nothing better to do. It was because I wanted to see what this guy was really about. And yeah, what happened next definitely wasn't part of the job description. Cole led me through the sliding glass doors into the house. The interior was just as breathtaking as the exterior, polished concrete floors, floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the city below, and furniture that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. "Make yourself comfortable," he said, tossing his towel onto a chair. "I'll grab something to drink." I perched on the edge of a leather couch, toolkit still in hand, trying to ignore the way my heart was thumping in my chest. My eyes kept darting around, taking in the artwork. the way the light hit the walls, the faint smell of citrus, and something woodsy lingering in the air. Cole returned with 2 glasses of sparkling water. He handed me one and sat opposite, legs crossed, in that effortless way that made him look completely in control. "So Tyler," he said, sipping his drink, "you do this full time?" "Yeah, mostly. I mean, I work for a company, but I cover a few private clients too. Helps pay rent." I shrugged, trying to sound casual. He nodded, eyes on me, studying me. "You like it?" "I do. I mean, it's not glamorous, but I like being outside, doing something physical." I caught myself staring at the faint definition of his shoulders. Plus, I meet interesting people. His smile flickered, half amused, half knowing. "Interesting, huh?" That's one way to put it. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was electric. The kind of quiet that makes you hyper-aware of every movement, every breath. I felt it when he leaned forward slightly, hand brushing against the armrest where mine rested. It wasn't intentional, not really, but the spark of contact made me jolt just a little. "So," Cole said, breaking the silence, "since the pool's done, there's one more thing I could use your help with." I raised an eyebrow. "Oh? What's that?" He stood, walking toward the kitchen counter, and motioned for me to follow. "Don't worry, it's not complicated, just some minor adjustments to the spa jets. They've been acting up since last week, and I've been meaning to fix them. Thought I'd finally have someone handy enough to help." I followed, glancing at the spa area outside the glass doors. Steam curled up from the water. It looked inviting, warm, safe. And yet, it wasn't the spa that made my pulse quicken. It was Cole's presence behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him, the faint scent of sunscreen and something else, something addictive. He handed me a small wrench. "Here, just tighten this here, then adjust the pressure here. Simple." I knelt beside the spa, working with the tool, trying to focus on the mechanics rather than the way his hand brushed mine when he leaned over to check my alignment. I told myself I was imagining it, that I was just tired. But the warmth, the proximity, it was too much to ignore. When I finally finished, I straightened up, wiping sweat from my forehead. Cole's eyes were on me again, a small smirk tugging at his lips. "Not bad," he said softly. "Better than I expected." "Thanks," I muttered, cheeks warming. "Just doing my job." "Yeah," he said, stepping a little closer, voice lowering. "Because it looks like you've been doing more than that." I froze, unsure if I'd misheard him. His eyes were serious, watching me intently. The playful tone was gone, replaced by something heavier, something deliberate. I swallowed, heart hammering. What do you mean?" Cole's smirk softened, almost imperceptibly. "Tyler, why don't you just stay a little longer? I've got some music we could play. Drinks. It's late, and it's hot, and the city's quiet. Just hang out with me for a bit." I hesitated. My mind was screaming client boundaries, but my body had other ideas. The tension in the air, the quiet pull between us, it was intoxicating. I nodded, almost against my own better judgment. "Good," Cole said, grinning. "I promise, nothing complicated. Just stay." And with that, I realized that tonight, the pool wasn't the only thing that would be cleaned. Something else, something far more unforgettable was about to begin. Cole led me back through the glass doors to the deck. The city lights stretched endlessly below us, a sparkling sea that made the pool look like it was floating in the sky. He carried a small tray with 2 glasses of rosé, condensation dripping onto the wood. "Here," he said, handing me a glass. "To finishing the job." I chuckled nervously, taking the glass. "To finishing the job," I repeated. We sat side by side on the loungers, the soft hum of the spa beside us and the water lapping gently against the pool's edge. The silence stretched, but it wasn't awkward. It was comfortable. Electric, but comfortable. Cole leaned back, stretching his arms behind his head, and I couldn't help but notice the way the light hit his chest, the faint lines of muscle that weren't overdone, just perfectly sculpted. He caught me staring and raised an eyebrow. "You checking me out?" he teased, smirk tugging at his lips. I nearly choked on my rosé. "What? No! I mean, well, maybe." He laughed softly, the sound low and intimate. "Relax, Tyler. I don't bite, unless you want me to." I froze. That tone, that way he said it, like it was casual but loaded with meaning. My pulse spiked. I told myself it was just flirtation, harmless, but every fiber of me knew it was more than that. "Look," I said, trying to steady my voice. "I don't usually. I'm here to do a job." "I know," he said, leaning closer. The warmth from his body brushed mine, and I could feel the faint heat radiating off his skin. "But you're already here. Might as well enjoy it. No rules tonight. No rush." Something in me uncoiled. The tension that had been building all day, the subtle glances, the accidental touches, it all condensed into a single, undeniable pulse. I took a slow sip of my drink, trying to calm myself, but my eyes kept flicking to him. Cole shifted slightly, bringing his arm to rest casually along the back of the lounger, behind me. His fingers brushed the edge of my shoulder, light, almost accidental, and I flinched, but in a way that betrayed how much it affected me. "You're tense," he observed softly. "Let me help with that." Before I could respond, he stood and motioned toward the pool. "Come on. Water always helps me relax. You can take a quick dip if you want." I hesitated. It's late. Relax," he said, smiling. "The city's asleep. Nobody's watching. Just come on." I followed him, slipping off my polo and cargo shorts. The water was cool, almost a shock to my skin, but the moment I submerged, I felt the tension in my shoulders start to melt. Cole's presence behind me, close enough that I could feel his chest near my back, made it impossible to think straight. He stepped in beside me, moving slowly, deliberately. "Better?" he asked, eyes locking onto mine. "Yeah," I said, voice barely above a whisper. My heart was racing. "Much better." Cole reached out, hand brushing the side of my arm. "You've got a lot of tension you're carrying around. I can fix that." I swallowed hard, trying not to betray how much that simple touch was affecting me. The water swirled around us, warm from the jets, and suddenly the pool felt like its own private world. Just the two of us suspended in silence and heat. "Stay," he said softly, almost a command, though it didn't feel harsh. "Tonight, just stay." And for the first time that day, I realized I wanted to. I wanted to stay. Not just for the water or the view, but for him, Cole. The client who was becoming something far more dangerous, far more intoxicating than any pool I'd ever cleaned. I nodded, and he smiled. A slow, knowing smile that made my chest tighten. Tonight wasn't about a job anymore. Tonight was about him and me. We stayed in the pool for what felt like hours, talking about everything and nothing. Cole had this way of making conversation feel effortless, like he was sharing secrets, even when he wasn't saying anything explicit. I found myself laughing more than I had all week, the tension slowly melting into something warmer, something dangerous in its own way. Eventually, he leaned against the edge, arms resting on the pool's lip, water dripping from his chest. "You're shivering," he said, eyes narrowing just slightly. "I'm fine," I muttered, though my teeth were definitely chattering. "Not for long," he said with a smirk. Then, without warning, he moved closer, brushing his chest against my back. The warmth of his skin hit me instantly, and I swallowed hard. "Come on, Tyler. Relax." I wanted to. I really did. But my mind was a mess of don't and want to, all tangled together. Every nerve ending was screaming. His presence, the smell of his skin, the casual intimacy of him leaning so close. It was overwhelming. He tilted his head, just slightly, so our faces were almost side by side. "You feel that?" he whispered. "That tension? I can help with that." Before I could even process what he meant, his hand reached out and rested lightly on my shoulder, tracing a lazy circle that sent heat down my spine. My breath hitched. "You're careful," I said, though the words came out shaky. "Careful?" he asked, smirk widening. "I like careful. Makes it more interesting." I turned my head, meeting his gaze, and for a second, the world outside the pool didn't exist. It was just us, just him. And everything about him was magnetic. The way his eyes lingered on mine, the soft curve of his lips, the confidence that wasn't arrogance but certainty, that quiet pull that made it impossible to look away. He laughed softly, low and intimate. "You're nervous," he said. "I can tell." "Maybe a little," I admitted, heart hammering. "This isn't, it's not normal. Normal's boring," he said. "Besides, tonight isn't about normal. It's about this." Before I could react, he leaned closer, brushing his lips lightly against my ear. A shiver ran through me. "This," he repeated, voice softer, warmer, almost urgent. I froze, caught between wanting to pull away and wanting to lean in. My chest was tight, my hands trembling slightly in the water. "Cole," I whispered. He pressed a little closer, hand sliding to rest on the small of my back. "Shh," he said. "Just stay." And I did. I stayed. Because for the first time, all day, all week even, I wanted to. I wanted to be here, in this pool, in this heat, with him, not because of the job, not because of the city lights, but because of Cole. Time stretched and warped. Every brush of his fingers, every shift in his stance made it harder to think about anything else. I realized I wasn't just staying late at someone's pool anymore. I was staying for him. And deep down, I knew that whatever this was, whatever it was becoming, it was going to be unforgettable. The water rippled softly around us, the city lights twinkling in the distance like stars fallen to earth. Cole didn't say anything for a long moment, just let his gaze rest on me. In that gaze, it wasn't casual, it wasn't playful, it was deliberate, patient, and somehow heavy with expectation. "I've got to ask," I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though my pulse was racing. "Why me? Why stay late?" He smiled faintly, just enough to make my chest tighten. "Because you stayed. Because you didn't leave. And because I wanted you here." The words hit me in a way I wasn't ready for. I opened my mouth, then closed it again. My mind was a whirlwind of, "This is a client," and "Holy shit, he's shirtless in a pool, inches from me." Cole must have noticed the conflict in my expression because he leaned a little closer, the water lapping softly around us. His hand brushed mine as he adjusted his position, and I swear my whole body hummed. "Relax," he murmured. "I'm not going to bite." "Unless you want me to." I blinked. Did he really just say that? My throat went dry. "You're serious?" "Completely," he said, eyes locking on mine. "You've got this energy. I can feel it. I'm just saying. I like it. You." The way he said it, like it was the simplest truth in the world, was disarming. I felt heat rising in my chest, a flush creeping over my neck and ears. I couldn't think straight. I wanted to leave, to remind myself of boundaries. But at the same time, I wanted to close the distance between us, to see where this could go. Cole tilted his head, almost teasingly, and whispered, "Stay close, just for tonight. No one else. Just you and me." It was like the world condensed into that single moment. The pool, the deck, the city lights, they all faded. There was only Cole, only the warmth of him near me, only the quiet pull I couldn't resist. I nodded slowly, my chest tight. "Okay." I breathed. "I'll stay." He smiled then, a soft, satisfied curve of his lips that made my stomach twist. Without another word, He leaned in just enough for our shoulders to brush, the heat of his chest warming me through the water. My hands rested instinctively on the edge of the pool, though part of me wanted to reach for him, to close the small space between us. Cole's eyes never left mine as he shifted slightly, his hand brushing mine again, lingering longer this time. The contact wasn't aggressive. It wasn't demanding. It was intentional, teasing, almost hypnotic. "I could get used to this," he said softly. "Yeah?" I murmured, voice shaky, because my whole body was betraying me now. "Yeah," he said, leaning back slightly, but keeping his gaze locked on mine. "You make it hard to leave." And he was right. I couldn't leave. I didn't want to. Not now. Not tonight. Something inside me gave way. A mix of curiosity, heat, and that strange, thrilling pull of danger. Staying late at a client's house had never felt like this before. Never this electric. Never this personal. And as Cole's smirk softened into something almost tender, I realized that the rest of the night was going to be nothing like I expected. The water shimmered around us, reflecting the soft glow of the city lights, but the real heat wasn't coming from the pool. It was Cole. Every subtle movement, every glance, every brush of his fingers against mine felt deliberate. My pulse thumped in my ears, and I was acutely aware of how close we were. "Tyler," he murmured, his voice low, almost hesitant for the first time. "Do you want this?" My throat went dry. "Want what?" I asked, even though I already knew the answer. He leaned closer, the space between us shrinking until our knees touched. "This," he whispered, letting his hand lightly graze my arm, sending a shiver down my spine. "Being here. Me. Us." I swallowed hard, heart hammering, body electric. Yeah," I admitted, voice trembling slightly. "I want this." Cole's smile was slow, knowing, like he'd been waiting to hear those words. He shifted, closing the final inch between us. The warmth of his chest pressed against mine through the water, and I felt his hand rest gently on my shoulder, thumb brushing in slow, deliberate circles. The tension that had been building all evening finally snapped, and I leaned in without thinking, just letting the pull guide me. Cole met me halfway. Our lips brushed softly at first, testing, exploring. The kiss was electric, charged, and I felt the kind of thrill I'd never experienced before. He pulled back slightly, eyes searching mine. "You're nervous," he said, a teasing lilt in his tone. "Maybe a little," I admitted, though my body betrayed me, leaning closer. "It's a lot." "I know," he said softly, "but that's okay. Just follow my lead." One hand slid from my shoulder to the small of my back, steadying me, while the other brushed through my hair. I shivered, closing my eyes, letting the moment engulf me. The pool wasn't just water anymore. It was a private world where nothing else mattered except him and me. We kissed again. Longer this time, more urgent. Every brush of lips, every gentle press of his hand, sent heat coursing through me. The initial hesitation, the worry about boundaries, it all melted away under the intensity of the moment. Cole pulled back just enough to whisper, "Stay close. Don't go anywhere." I nodded, unable to speak, and he smiled, a soft, intimate curve of his lips that made my chest tighten. Then he pressed his forehead against mine, eyes closed, and for a long moment we just floated in the water together, breathing in sync. I started, voice barely audible. "Me neither," he said. "Tonight feels different, special." I felt the truth in that, felt it in the warmth of his hand, the brush of his shoulder, the way he was looking at me. This wasn't just a late-night flirtation. This was something real, something unforgettable. And as the city hummed quietly beneath us, I realized I didn't want to leave. Not the pool, not the house, not Cole. Tonight, I was exactly where I was meant to be. The pool felt warmer now, though I knew it was just the heat of him pressed close. Cole's hands moved with quiet assurance, one on my back, the other brushing my arm, then lingering a little too long on my shoulder. My nerves were taut, my body humming with electricity, but it wasn't fear. It was anticipation, that delicious edge of uncertainty that made every brush of skin feel amplified. He tilted his head, lips brushing mine again. Softer this time, almost teasing, testing. I responded instinctively, leaning closer, letting myself melt into the moment. His body shifted slightly, pressing against mine, and I could feel the heat radiating from him. My hands trembled as they rested lightly on his chest, feeling the taut muscles under his skin. "You're sure about this?" he whispered, voice low, almost breathless. "I've wanted this," I admitted, words catching in my throat. "Since I got here." Cole smiled, a slow, knowing curve that made my chest tighten. "Good," he murmured, "because I've been waiting too." And then, without breaking eye contact, he guided me through the shallow end toward the steps, where we could sit together more comfortably. The water lapped softly around us, the hum of the city below fading into nothing. For a long moment, we just sat there, foreheads together, hands exploring lightly, savoring the thrill of being this close. The first kiss had been electric, but this one was different. It was deliberate, slow, intimate. Every movement was careful, intentional, full of tension and release. His hands moved down my back, pulling me closer, and I could feel the unmistakable press of him against me. My chest tightened, every nerve ending alive with sensation. Cole whispered again. "Stay with me tonight. Just here. No rules, no schedules. Just this." I hesitated, then nodded. My mind was spinning, but my body knew exactly what it wanted. "I want that." The air between us seemed to thrum with something forbidden, exciting, impossible to resist. We kissed again, deeper this time, exploring, savoring the intimacy that had been building all evening. Every brush of skin, every touch of hands, every fleeting movement sent waves of heat through me. Time became meaningless. Minutes blurred into hours. The pool, the city below, the fading sunset, it all disappeared. There was only him, only us, only this moment suspended in the warm night air. Eventually, we pulled back just enough to catch our breath, foreheads resting together, eyes half-lidded. "Unforgettable," I murmured. He chuckled softly. "You have no idea," he replied, voice low, intimate, the promise of more lingering in every word. And in that moment, I knew he was right. This night, Cole, the pool, the quiet intimacy, the way he made me feel, was something I would never forget. It started as just a pool cleaning job, but it became everything. The next morning, I woke to the soft hum of the city below, and the faint, golden light spilling across the deck. The pool was calm, the water perfectly still, reflecting the sky above. For a moment, I couldn't remember where I was. Then it all came rushing back. Cole was gone. Not in a rude way, not abruptly, but quietly. A note rested on the small table beside my towel. "Good morning, Tyler. Don't rush. Breakfast is in the kitchen if you're hungry." "Cole," I smiled, the memory of last night running through me in vivid flashes. The way he touched me, the warmth, the laughter, the intimacy. It wasn't just the heat of the pool or the thrill of staying late. It was him. Cole had made a normal evening unforgettable. I stepped into the kitchen. Cole was there, casually dressed in a simple t-shirt and shorts, pouring coffee as if nothing extraordinary had happened. But everything had happened. The way he looked at me, eyes soft, teasing, knowing, it was all there. "Morning," I said, voice a little rough. "Morning," he replied, smiling. "Sleep well?" "You could say that," I murmured, taking the seat across from him. Cole handed me a cup of coffee, fingers brushing mine. The contact was subtle, but it made my stomach twist in that familiar, thrilling way. "You're staying a little longer today, right?" he asked casually, like he hadn't orchestrated the entire night. I nodded. "Yeah, I don't want to leave." He grinned, that slow, knowing smile that had haunted me in the best way since last night. "Good. Neither do I. We sat there, sipping coffee, talking about trivial things. But underneath it all was an unspoken promise. This wasn't a one-night thing. This was something new, something real, something neither of us could ignore. As I glanced out at the pool, sunlight glinting off the water, I realized just how much had changed in one evening. A simple pool cleaning job had become the start of something unforgettable, something I hadn't seen coming but couldn't imagine walking away from. And as Cole's gaze met mine again, warm and steady, I knew this was just the beginning.